Look, I know that I've been talking about some subjects that have been testy, that a lot of the things that you see around about the New York Giants and the New York Giants universe has been negative. But I want to talk about some positives, some things that I saw in the game that I believe bode well for this team going forward, not only this year, but into the future. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, and I've got a giant issue. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. New York Giants on the SI. That's where you can get all your New York Giants news and information. Check out how I've been looking at the New York Giants as far as fantasy goes. You know, their fantasy values, different players. It's a great way to, try to enjoy the game without thinking so much about the outcome of the team and focusing on the players that can make things better. Speaking of things that can make things better, you should go and subscribe to the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel, where you can find a giant issue and all the things that we do there. We really do appreciate it. I digress, but I was thinking about some of the positives that we can take away from the game on Friday. Sorry, on Friday. The game last week versus the Commanders. It's a situation where, yes, you lost the game. Yes, you didn't feel like you should lose the game, but there were some things that looked good. I'm not going to get into the whole, but they only look good because it was the Commanders. Nope, I'm not doing that. The Commanders are a legitimate NFL football team, and as such, we're going to respect them for that, the same way that they're going to respect the win over the Giants and not listen to people say, well, yeah, that's just the Giants, right? Exactly. So one of the things that I want to start with, and this is something that for me, I've been watching and waiting to see how the continuity continues to build. And that is not just the protection from the offensive line, but Daniel Jones' ability to manipulate and work within the protection to not ruin good blocking with bad decision making, right? I've talked about this before, that there have been times where Daniel Jones has either done something to create the pressure that he is finding, or he didn't do anything to help the protection be better for him. In this game, and there's a couple of instances I can remember. One specifically, it's the play action that they always try to run, by the way. They always try to run this play action. I don't know why they love this play action so much, but they keep trying to run the play action. They run the play action where they do a run fake to one side. They bring a receiver across to either be a blocker in the pass protection, or they have the guy on the other side who's outside of the rusher try to block him in. Well, they did it again. It was essentially a zone boot concept, right? Like they ran zone to the right. There was a play fake. He turned around. It's supposed to be able to boot to the left. But again, these are naked boots, or they're not supposed to be. There's supposed to be someone blocking them. But the guy who was supposed to be blocking them was on the left side. He didn't quite get enough of the rusher to keep that rusher from getting in the face of Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones turned around, saw the pressure, and instead of trying to escape or duck under or freeze, he just quickly flipped the ball, right? He just quickly flipped the ball to Malik Neighbors. Neighbors was able to catch it and run up the field for some yards. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, right? I know it doesn't sound like a lot. but it's really high level, right? It's really high level because we know that in panic situations, we go to lizard brain. Unless your lizard brain is trained, and then you go into a trained level of lizard brain, right? So when he turns around and he sees that guy in his face, it's fight or flight or freeze. Daniel Jones has been known to freeze and or to fly, meaning he would normally freeze and or try to escape, but never fight, which is if you bring pressure from me over here, then counterbalance somebody going that way, there's nobody there to be able to take it. So if you're bringing someone this way and I send someone that way, then that person should be open because you're coming to me. And watching him flip, locate that pressure right in his face and get it off really quick, right? Pop it away really quick is a great sign that he's beginning. So, well, no, I shouldn't say beginning because he's in year 6, but it's a great sign that he's getting more comfortable manipulating the pocket and the pressure the way that it should be manipulated. That was great to see. Like, how could that not be great to see? The other thing, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to make sure I go and look it up because I don't want to be mistaken. I don't want to be wrong on this, right? I believe that the New York Giants only gave up 1 sack, right? And even though they lost, you have to be encouraged by the fact that they only gave up 1 sack. Because in years past, this might be 4 and 5 and 6 sacks. So the fact that they only gave up 1 sack says, hey, this offensive line gelling better, right? But it also means this quarterback manipulating the pocket a lot better, right? So I can remember a couple plays. One specifically that ended up in the touchdown down by the line of scrimmage. It was a straight drop back, a 5, maybe a 7-step drop. Like, he got back there. He was able to scan 1, 2, came back to Malik Neighbors, and found him in the end zone for a touchdown. I don't remember many times where Daniel Jones had the opportunity to scan 1, 2, and didn't just take off or start moving himself out of the pocket where he just sat in the pocket the way he should. And I don't remember a lot of times where guys weren't getting ran around that forced him to have to make the decision. There were a couple times, Jermaine Illuminor on the right side, he ran a guy around very similar to what Evan Neal did or has done, and people say, oh, that's bad. But I digress. He ran a guy around. Daniel Jones stepped up in the pocket, but instead of stepping up and attacking the various lanes, he stepped up and delivered a pass. Now, on this particular touchdown pass I'm talking about, none of that happened. It was great blocking from Illuminor, stoned the guy on his side, right? It was Daniel Jones sitting in the pocket. There was no pressure up the middle, because remember, that's one of my biggest issues has been pressure up the middle. There was no pressure up the middle, right? There was no pressure up the middle. He was able to scan 1, 2, come back to Malik Neighbors, 3, touchdown. You got to feel good about that, right? Like, you have to be like, yo, if we can just get that more often, that's what we're talking about, right? So watching him move within the pocket, know when to scramble, know when to kind of hold his water, right? Like, for him to know all of those things, for him to realize that he has to operate in that manner is good for the New York Giants going forward. Like, for him to know that he has to be better at working within the structure that's given, and for the offensive line to know that they have to give him a better shape, a better structure to be comfortable in, means that both of them, the offensive line and Daniel Jones, are starting to gel into one unit of protection. Because remember, protection is not just on the offensive line. Protection is on the quarterback. It is on him getting rid of the ball. It is on him maneuvering in the pocket. It is on him knowing when it's time to get away. And all of those things working together, they all help for sacks to reduce, which means that they help for possible fumbles to reduce. Remember, one of Daniel Jones' biggest issues isn't just the interceptions, it's the turnovers altogether, which are via fumbles, right? It's some of the best quarterbacks in the league have fumbling issues because they stick around in the pocket a little too long, and then a defender gets to them and they lose the ball. Josh Allen has it, right? Lamar Jackson has it. So these are not things that are just only Daniel Jones issues. These are things that the elites deal with. But it's good to see him maneuvering in the pocket. It's good to see him like working around in the pocket. The other thing with Daniel Jones that we didn't see in game one that we saw in game two, we saw shots. We saw him throw deep on a sideline pass to Malik Neighbors that, if I'm being honest, I feel like Malik Neighbors should have come up with, right? I feel like he should have been able to bring that ball in, but it was just a little too far for him, right? Just a little too far. There was also another shot that he took down the middle of the field where he had great protection, where I thought he could have thrown a better ball. He threw the Malik Neighbors was working kind of this way, and he threw the ball this way, and so then Malik Neighbors wasn't able to get to it. But if he had thrown the ball this way, where Neighbors could have ran away from the defender and not counter to where his actual where his momentum was taking him, that could have been a big touchdown. I don't care that they didn't complete it, right? Because I think it'll come with time, right? This season, I'm not saying in years. I'm just saying this season, I think they'll complete them or complete more of them. I like the attempt. I like just letting it loose, cutting it loose, letting that defense know, hey, y'all can scooch up you want to, but if you do, we're going to strike you over the top. What I did not like is that both of those shots just came to Malik Neighbors. You can't have Malik Neighbors doing all of it. You have guys who can stretch the ball, stretch the field vertical that are not Malik Neighbors, who do a really good job of it. The next evolution now is for me to see them get Darius Slayton involved in that, right? Still waiting for a Jalen Hyatt, but I'm gonna keep it positive right now because I really do want to focus on those things they did well. The last thing offensively that I really liked was watching Devin Singletary get into his doubles and triples bag, right? I talked about the fact on New York Giants on that side when they signed Devin Singletary that he might not be a home run hitter, but he is really good at hitting doubles. Like, he's really good at getting those plays where you get extra yards because he just knows how to move and make people miss. He's shifty without being like Barry Sanders level, you know what I'm saying, shifty. He's very shift. He's got similar shift in him as Saquon Barkley, just maybe not the level of power and or explosion that Barkley can possess at times. So I like watching him get into his doubles bag. There was a play where he was running, and if you're looking at it on film, there's an opening up the middle, there's an opening to the right. And the first instinct would be to take that right because the right looks wider. but he goes up the middle because he knows that the blocking is better there than it is on those sides. So he just, boom, hits it up there, gets a good gain. We see another time where he goes and he's running, and the guy tries to come and get him, and he hits the spin move on him, right? Just at the last moment, that defender thought he had him. He took the leg away from him and made him miss. That's what we like to see. And then on the touchdown run, right, on his touchdown run, where he's pressed in the hole and then he bounces outside. He bounces outside of one blocker, and then really quickly, as the defender who's unblocked comes in, he jukes right back inside and takes that leg away and then gets over another guy diving in the end zone. Magnificent. That is what Devin Singletary is at the height of what Devin Singletary can do. He may not get you a 70-yard touchdown run, but he can get you stuff like that all day. It was fantastic to watch. Fantastic. Like those are some positives on this offense that you should be taking and going, all right, we've got something here. It's the greatest time of year again. Football is back, and it's here to stay till February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Went up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player stats, i.e. touchdowns, passing yards, and more. I can tell you right now, I love 3 things in this Giants game against the Browns. I know that the Browns are supposed to be really, really good, but here's what I like. Here's the genius. Here it is for you right now. Daniel Jones, higher than 0.5 passing touchdowns. Come on. If they're going to have a chance, it's going to come because Daniel Jones was able to find Malik Neighbors or a running back or a tight end somewhere in the end zone. I also like Malik Neighbors to be higher than 67.5 rushing and receiving yards. We know they're going to get him the ball. And even if the game doesn't go the way the Giants wants to, there's going to be a lot of throwing going on, right? Take that higher. Wan'Dale Robinson, higher than 33.5 rushing and receiving yards. We know that Wan'Dale is going to get touches. And when he does, we get a chance to cash in. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code NYSI, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code NYSI to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 plus in Alabama and New England, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Yeah, so offensively, I feel good about some of the things that this Giants team was able to do. Defensively, I actually don't feel as bad as I felt on Monday. I'm going to tell you why. I don't think this team's very good against the run, right? But that's beyond the point. What I do think they are, or what I do think they have, is a team full of willing tacklers. I know it might sound crazy to say, but it's not always a situation where you have a team full of willing tacklers. Many times you'll find that a team has a core of maybe 7 to 8 guys that are really willing to tackle. The other 3 guys are making business decisions. And believe it or not, it's not always just the cornerbacks, right? Sometimes you find these edge rushers that will just be all about the sack. but not about actually getting involved in the run game. I truly believe that all 11 of the guys that are on the field, they are willing tacklers, which means that they just have to clean things up schematically, right? Either the scheme and what they're doing, the scheme and how the scheme is employed, or how they are operating in the scheme. And once they do, you'll get better results with holding teams from being able to run on you. So that's a positive. Another positive has to be Dru Phillips, right? Has to be Dru Phillips. He plays with a level of suddenness. He plays with a level of physicality. He plays with a level of edge, right? Of grit that you have to love to see in somebody who is taking their first snaps in the National Football League. That's 2 games in a row where he has looked like one of the better players on the field, where he has looked like a piece that you can put into the box and say, okay, these are the pieces that we have that we want to build this defense around. We have a really good, really strong, animated, explosive nickel corner, slot guy, right? I think that is a plus all around. I think it's a plus all around. I was skeptical of the pick, not because he didn't have the requisite athletic ability or whatever, just because it's like, well, how many of these things do you need? I think that they found their guy, right? It's still early. And I don't like to make sweeping declarations, but I think they found their guy in the slot, or at least that's what it tells me watching him play, right? I'm going to keep it positive. I'm not going to talk about what they're doing with some other players that they said were going to be nickels and all that, but right now, Dru Phillips, he looks like the real deal. One of the other things I'll say is I think both of these things go hand in hand. The first one is it was interesting that the defensive line, I don't think they recorded a sack in the game. And I talked about that on Monday, and I was a little bit like, what? But then I was thinking about it, right? And so if my criticism of the defense and the defensive coordinator is that you said you were going to get pressure with 4, we're not getting pressure with 4, then shouldn't I applaud the fact that he was willing to kind of change up what he does and send more pressure, because he was able to get pressure. They were able to get sacks. Those sacks just didn't come via the defensive line. Now, so I don't let me run over that. That's good. That's great. That means that, for all of my beef with this defense or this defensive play calling, most defensive coordinators just do what they do forever. The Leopards don't change their spots, right? I don't know if this is a spot change, but it is good to see. Although I will mention something, another day that makes you go, well, if that's the case, then I digress. We'll keep it positive. So with the defensive line not recording any sacks, with the sacks coming from other players, linebackers, safeties, your first initial thought would be, oh, well, the defensive line didn't play well. That's not the case. This defensive line was flying all around. Part of the reason that the linebackers and DBs were able to get so free to pursue the quarterback or make tackles on the quarterback was because the defensive line was flushing, right? There was one play where, and I know because Kayvon Thibodeau gets a lot of flack, right? He rushed off the right side, the defensive right side, stabbed, used his hands, dipped underneath the lineman, pursued to the quarterback and got there right as he was throwing the ball. So much that he did not get like real power on the football. It wasn't fluttering, but it definitely had more of a soft touch to it. I just knew that ball was going to get picked off. But when Jason Pinnock went to attack, he attacked the man and the ball instead of going full out for the pick. And I think if he'd gone full out for the interception, he would have gotten the interception. Why do I bring this up? The pressure was there, right? That is what you want out of a pass rusher. If you can't get home to make the sack, do something to alter the pass. He did. Now, it didn't work out. That receiver ended up still grabbing the ball. Again, I think Pinnock took a bad angle, tried to tackle the man and play through the ball. He should have just played for the ball. I think he would have been able to get it. But my point still stands, is that you want to see disruption. And I think we saw disruption from the defensive line. That's what allowed the other people to get home. Now, is it the same as what Aiden Hutchinson is doing early in the year with 5.5 sacks already? No. But also keep in mind that the Giants aren't playing teams that throw the ball 100 times or 40 and 50 times, right? They're not playing quarterbacks who don't have an ability to like move, right? So they played the Vikings. The Vikings ran the ball well. They limited the passes. The passes were short, quick. Get them out your hands fast. Not a lot of opportunity for the defensive line to eat. Then they played Washington, quarterback that will hold it. They got 5 sacks because they sent pressure. There were a couple sacks where if that linebacker and or safety didn't make the play, then a defensive lineman probably would have, right? But then also there's the added element of that person being able to scramble out of harm. The Lions played Baker Mayfield, who is athletic, but nobody's gonna like mistake him for Jaden Daniels. And then they played old man Matthew Stafford. It's 2 totally different types of offenses and what they're asking their quarterback to do in those systems. So the opportunity for sacks are there more. Now, when the Giants play more of those teams, will we see the defensive line step up? That's the question. And I think the answer is going to be yes, because I like what I saw. I like what I saw. A good mixture of rushing the 4 and then sending a 5th guy from anywhere, from all those positions. I like it. We'll see if it continues to unfold that way as we progress through the rest of this, the rest of this season. But those are positives that I see. Those are positives that I see. Make sure that you check out as we flip the page and get ready for this really difficult contest versus the Browns. We'll break down the Browns and the Giants matchup tomorrow. That's all the time I have. Make sure that you're checking out everything that we have to say, New York Giants on SI, and subscribing to the YouTube channel, New York Giants on SI, and hitting that notification bell so that you see every time a new episode of a Giant issue pops up. Make sure that if you're not watching, that you're listening on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you get your podcast. Download, tell a friend. And until next time, I'm Gene Clemens, and I have a Giant issue.